ain't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
What is up, First Mighty subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Alright, today's video, I actually want to talk about a comic that's been running for a little while, and I think I've actually kind of briefly mentioned it here and there on the Blerd Cave, and if you don't watch the Blerd Cave, which I don't know why you wouldn't, but it live streams every Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, right here on YouTube. So make sure, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap that bell. That way you don't miss these sorts of things. But if I'm not mistaken, the Blerd Awards, we actually gave, or rather I gave, a award for best one shot of the year to Local Man for Local Man Gold #1. But yeah, Local Man is a comic that is written by both Tim Seeley and Tony Fleecs, with art also by Tony Fleecs and Tim Seeley, as well as color by Brad Simpson and Felipe Sobrero. So Local Man is a very interesting comic to me because it touches on a very specific thing that I'm a huge fan of, even though sometimes I make fun of it, and that is 90s era Image comics. Like back in the day where everything was extreme. You know what I'm talking about. Back in the day when you would go to Image Comics and you would find comics like Brigade or Cyber Force or Youngblood, Wildcats, all kinds of crazy comics, Wetworks and Team 7 and whatnot. Just comics that made sometimes no good goddamn sense at all, but they were still somehow entertaining. And this is a comic that speaks to that, because what this comic does is it follows the titular Local Man, a guy by the name of Jack, who is a former superhero for a premier superhero team that is, for all intents and purposes, supposed to be kind of like the Avengers of the Image Comics universe, but in his superhero persona, he was known as Cross Jack. And if you think about the idea this guy is supposed to be a 90s era superhero in Image Comics, you could probably imagine what he's supposed to remind you of. He's very much a cross between characters like Shaft of Youngblood, as well as Captain America and a few other things. But basically, this was supposed to be this guy who was like a premier superhero, and now suddenly he is having to go move back in with his parents back in his hometown of Farmington because he's been canceled. And while we're never really initially told exactly why he is canceled at first, I think that's kind of half the fun of this comic. What really just makes it sing for me is the fact that he is one of those types of people that you can tell he just wants to get back to his life, and he's trying to make the best of a bad situation, but no matter where he turns, every time he looks around, he is being beset upon by former enemies. And not even just former enemies, but even people in his hometown who know who he is, they know his secret identity, and they can't stand him, and they're making life incredibly difficult for him. Not only that, but his old flame Inga from back when he was in high school, before he became a full-fledged superhero, is also still in his hometown of Farmington, and she has moved on. She has gotten married to the town sheriff, and while he's thinking initially, maybe I can get back with my old flame, and no, you can't do that either. And while him being shit-canned from 3rd Gen is supposed to be the end of his superheroing career, he is no longer supposed to be fulfilling any superhero shenanigans at all whatsoever. There is a conspiracy going on in his own backyard. Former supervillains that he used to tango with are suddenly coming up dead. And because he has beef with quite a few of them, people are starting to look in his direction, thinking that maybe it's Cross Jack who is losing his damn mind. After all, he did get kicked out of 3rd Gen, so maybe it's him. He's the guy who's on the outs. He's the guy with the biggest problem, so maybe we should start looking at this guy. But no, we're following him. We know he's not the reason behind this. And the whole point of the story is for him to get to the bottom of it, all the while trying to avoid 3rd Gen, who is also keeping tabs on him and are the very same people who inform him he is not to be doing any more superhero shenanigans. This is kind of why he adopts, I won't necessarily say the name Local Man, but just the persona, the look of Local Man. Local Man's kind of a title that is really more to do with just the story itself, and occasionally for newspaper clippings purposes. Same as you would hear something like Florida Man, you know, when you read a paper about somebody doing something crazy in Florida. It's kind of the same vibe here. They just local man. But yeah, he's out here still trying to do his thing and get to the bottom of this conspiracy. And one of the things I love about it is that it just keeps further and further and further taking us down the 90s Image Comics rabbit hole. And when you get to the end of the first arc, the first, I believe it's the first 5 issues of Local Man, and then you get to, I believe it's the one-shot Local Man Gold, you're just like, oh my god, this is crazy. They are bringing back all these characters, some of which aren't even anything to do with Image Comics in some respects. But it almost kind of reminds me of Donny Cates' crossover in some of the appearances you can see in just that one shot alone. If you read that comic, if you're somebody who was reading Image back in the 90s, or even just other comics from like the 60s, 70s, and 80s, you'll see so many characters, you'll be like, oh my god, I forgot about this character. Oh my god, I forgot about that character. And yeah, it's a fun comic overall, and it's really nice to see Tim Seeley and Tony Fleecs just really flexing their creative muscles on this one, and kind of, you know, once again doing a comic about a bygone era that, you know, once again I think is good to stay where it's at. You know, it should be a thing of the past, but I still love the idea that, you know, somebody out here is still making comics that are in that same vein. And well, yeah, it's not necessarily adopting all of the isms of the 90s. It's really just more kind of a love letter to those things, but also still keeping a story that is very much rooted in the present, and not so that way it doesn't just, you know, lean too hard into being 90s. Like, it's more almost kind of cheekily making fun of what you know, the 90s was like. And they even have some parts in certain issues where they do flashbacks to when Cross Jack was still a superhero, and it's just adorable. It's adorable how 90s it is. But yeah, I say all this to recommend this comic because I think, you know, more people should be checking this out. Local Man is just, it's such a good ride, such a good fun ride. I'm 100% in for a penny, in for a pound on this comic. If you could not already tell, it is fantastic. It does everything it needs to do, and it's, I think by this particular point, I believe we are at issue number 9, maybe 10 of Local Man by this particular point, so there's plenty of Local Man to read. And if you've checked out the series Local Man, let me know what you thought about it. And if for whatever reason you checked out this video and you did not know anything about Local Man and you do go check it out, come back and let me know what you think about it. You guessed it, obligatory channel outro time. If you're not subscribed to the channel, consider doing so. Clicking that subscribe button and tapping that notification bell ensures that you get more videos just like this one, and you don't miss any of my other content that I drop throughout the week, plus my live streams every Thursday and Saturday. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you click that like button, keep it plus ultra, and sound off in the comments.